and today we're going to talk about what I call how to net the fish. In other words, how to get the seller to sign the contract so that you can put that deal up on your whiteboard and get this thing sold and get paid. So what's super important when you're talking to a seller and you've gotten all the information from them, you've made your offer, they've verbally told you that they like your offer and they want to move forward. How do you get it under contract quickly, right, before another buyer comes into play and outbids you, or the seller says, I want to think about it, and maybe overthinks about it and then they don't want to do the deal? How do you avoid all that from happening? Well, what you got to do is you got to get that contract signed right now. And that's why we talk about getting the fish in the boat. And I use that terminology because when you're fishing, right, you put the bait on there, which is like your marketing. You throw that out in the water. You wait. You have a lead come in, which is where the fish is, nibbling on the thing. And the fish bites the hook, and then you're fighting them, okay? That's like when you make your offer, and then you're negotiating. And so you go through all this, and you get the fish right up to the boat, right? But what's so important? What happens if you get a fish up to the boat, you're fishing, and you don't get it in the boat? It gets off the hook at the last minute. Okay, it sucks because you're like, oh my gosh, I almost had the fish. I did everything. I got it right there, and then I lost it. And you don't want that to happen in real estate, but it can happen, okay? Because speed wins in real estate, and if you don't have speed, you're going to kill deals and you're going to lose deals. So that's why we call it netting the fish. You've got that deal right there, but now you got to get it in the boat. Once you have that seller contract signed, assuming you have the right protections in place, okay, and the seller has clean title, that is equity. You just increased your net worth instantly, okay, because you're going to be able to turn that deal into cash. So if we sign a deal right now that we know we're going to make $20,000 on, we get that signature in, that's as good as $20,000 in the bank, right? That's accounts receivable. All we got to do now is turn this deal into cash, and we're going to get paid. So there's nothing worse than getting to that point and going, oh my gosh, we're going to make $20,000, maybe more on this deal, and then the contract never comes in. So today, we're going to talk about how to avoid that from happening, how to make sure that you get that fish in the boat, you get that contract signed up on the whiteboard, and now you're going to get paid. And I hear people in this business talking about, what happens if the seller wants to back out or you lose a deal because of that type of thing. Guys, when we get to the seller contract, which is coming up in just a few modules, okay, I'm going to talk exactly about how to protect yourself from that happening. We'll go over my contract, which I spent years and thousands of dollars in attorney fees developing, that will protect you in case a seller just wants to back out. So pretty much if you get the contract signed, right, as long as they have clear title, you're going to be golden. And I've always talked about, I like going to high equity sellers as opposed to probates and divorces and code violations and those distress lists, because typically you get clear title with high equity lists. Now, I'm not saying don't go to probate lists or divorce lists or these more distress lists, because you can get deals there too, right? But I'm just saying I've always preferred high equity because a lot of times you get clear title. So usually you get the fish in the boat. A lot of times you don't have to worry about clear title. You're like, these people have tons of equity. I don't think anything's gonna probably pop up. That's just a side note. So anyways, guys, we're gonna jump into it. Module 8, how to net the fish. All right. Now it all starts, the first point I want to make is when you're qualifying the lead. Okay, so if you haven't watched that video, make sure to go back a few modules and watch the lead qualification video where I talk about how to qualify a lead to determine, is this a good lead? Are they ready to sell now? Are they ready to sell now potentially at wholesale, etc.? So you want to start while you are doing that. The first call with the seller while you're figuring out, do they live there? When do they want to sell? Where are they going to move to? Why are they selling, etc. You should also be planting the seed with them of what's going on with you. So in other words, don't just tell them, hey, we buy houses as is. We'll make you a cash offer whenever you're ready, because that does not create any urgency. Okay, and one of the best things you can do to help yourself get more deals and be better at sales is always create urgency when you're trying to sell something. So in this case, guys, we're trying to sell the seller on the service of buying the house from them. So we want to sell them on the idea of selling us their house. Does that make sense? And so when we're doing that, we want to make sure that they understand what's going on with our story. Now in my business, we're always selling properties out of our rental property portfolio and leveraging them to buy more units, right? So we like to use the story that, look, we just sold one of our properties. We've got some money right now. And that's why we're having this conversation, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. That's why we sent you that postcard. That's why we cold called you. That's why we sent you that text blast, etc. Right? So now when we're talking to them, they don't just have this understanding like, oh yeah, we're just iBuyers, we always buy houses, right? They're actually looking at it going, oh, this is a situational thing where you want to buy a house like mine right now. And that creates urgency, because then later, after we make the offer and all that kind of stuff, if they say, well, I want to think about it, right? We can say, well, remember when we told you, that we just sold the property? Well, I only have enough money to buy one house. I'm actually supposed to go look at this other house tomorrow, and I like the location better on yours. So if we could agree to this now, that would be fantastic. If not, my worst fear would be that, you want to think about it, and I go look at the other deal and I pass on the other deal, hoping that you're going to accept my offer. And then if you don't accept my offer, I miss out on both deals. And so what this does is this creates urgency with the seller, and it makes the seller think about, well, do I want to risk losing this offer, or do I want to move forward now? If they think they can just think about it for as long as they want, make a decision whenever, right? You're more often than not going to lose those deals. So it's very important right from the beginning that you're starting to tell them your story, why you're looking right now, right? And use urgency as a tool to get the deal, okay? Now, another important point is point number 2 is you want to be always closing, okay? Always be closing. You guys maybe have heard this, ABC, always be closing, okay? It's a very old, popular phrase. I think it's been in some sales movies and stuff like that, but always be closing means you're always closing. Okay, don't get into the weeds with the seller. Don't get off on tangents. Don't have anything to do with the deal. Stay on track throughout the whole process and always be closing while you go through that track. So guys, we talked about the lead qualification process, right? While you're going through that lead qualification, you should always be closing. And part of closing, right, is letting them know why you're looking to buy a house right now. Telling them about your story right now, like I just discussed. Also, part of always be closing is, if they say, well, I'm thinking about, maybe listing it with the realtor. Well, if you're always closing, you're going to start right away combating that objection, right? So you're going to talk about, oh, okay, sounds great. So, you don't mind, you must not mind if, it takes several months to sell your house. And they might say, oh, no, we think we can sell it quickly. So if you're always closing, you're going to be like, well, typically on average houses take, 3 to 6 months to close. If you sell them on the MLS, a lot of times, half of the contracts that get signed, in the retail world don't end up closing. So a lot of times then you're going back on the market. You have to have more people tromping through your house, and they're going, oh, I didn't really think about all those things, right? That's always closing, right? So you talk about, I'm going to buy your house as is. There's not going to be any fees. And they say, well, I think I can get a realtor to, list my house for less than the going rate on the open market. Oh, okay. So you want a discount realtor. Do you want somebody that's not good about negotiating for their own pay to negotiate for you to get you max money for your house, right? That's always closing. Everything you're talking about, you're trying to win on every single objection. You're trying to close the gap, right, between retail and wholesale. That's part of always closing. And so it's very important. And part of always closing, this point number 3 I wanted to make, is that you're always one sentence away from their pleasure pain, from their pain point or from their pleasure point, or both. So to give you an example what that means, let's say a seller says that what's really important for them is getting rid of this property because this property's been a headache. Maybe let's say, for example, the property's a rental property, and the seller's telling you, oh my gosh, this is such a hassle. The tenant hasn't been taking good care of the house. The house is deteriorating. It's been a big pain in the butt. So as you're talking to them during the qualification process, during the offer process, etc., you want to always be one sentence away from that. So say they start to say, yeah, maybe I will just hold on to it. You can go right back to, well, look, I know you want more money for your house, but how good is it going to feel when you don't have to worry about this property anymore? When that tenant situation that's been so much, you just told me about how much stress these tenants have been causing you and they're not taking care of the house. How nice is it going to be when that goes away? You never have to worry about the tenants again, or the fact that maybe they're damaging your property again. That all goes away. How nice is that going to be? Right? Or maybe they tell you that there's, maybe they live in the house and they're selling this house so they can move closer to be with their grandkids, right? So then on any point you're talking and they're saying, oh, I think I can get more money, or I don't mind if it takes a little longer to sell, whatever, you can say, well, look, I know you want some more money, but how nice is it going to be when you're with your grandkids? Are you still going to be thinking about that extra $10,000 or $15,000 when you are, having dinner with your grandkids? Because right now, selling this house is keeping you from moving and being able to spend more time with your grandkids, which you told me is the whole reason you're selling this house, right? So you want to stay one sentence away from their pain or their pleasure point the whole time. Okay. And they might say, nah, well, we were just kind of thinking about it, but yeah, maybe we're probably going to wait till next year to sell our house. Well, you told me you were selling your house because you want to spend more time with your grandkids, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wait a year, that's another year of not spending time with your grandkids. And, I've got kids myself. They grow so fast. Time just flies by. Do you think that maybe you won't really be concerned over that 5 or 10 or 15,000 extra dollars you're trying to get when you look back in 10 years and in 20 years and go, wow, so glad I got that extra year with my grandkids? Does that make sense, guys? So you need to know why they're selling. That's why during the qualification process, we're trying to figure out what motivates them, what they're worried about. And then we can stay one sentence away from that pain or that pleasure point during everything we do, when we make the offer, when we negotiate, and when we move into the close. It's very important, because you might get into close and you're right there, right? They're thinking about it. And you think, look, let's get this done right now so that you can go spend time with your grandkids. Let's get this done right now so that you don't have to spend another sleepless night worrying about this rental property, okay? That's part of always be closing. Always be one sentence away from the pleasure point. Always be one sentence away from their pain point. If you start getting away from what's motivating them to sell the house, you're going to lose that deal. Energy is going to fall, right? They're going to want to think about it. They're going to want to get offers from other people. But if you can stay on task, move through that process, keep it focused on them and why they're doing this, and close that gap, and always be closing as you close that gap, you're going to find that you're going to get a lot more deals. Okay. Point number 4 I want to make on this. We're talking about how to get the fish in the boat, right? How to get this deal done right now is that you never move into the close without a commitment. Okay. And what I mean by that is, don't try to start getting them to send you the contract right now or today when they haven't even actually told you that, yes, I will sell the house right now. So we talked about during the lead qualification process, one of the things we want to figure out when we're qualifying the lead, okay, which is on the initial call when we're talking to the seller, we find out, do they live there? When are they moving? Where are they moving? Why are they selling? What kind of conditions of property, and etc. One of the things that we ask them is, well, look, if we can make all the terms work and the price work, are you ready to sell the house now? And if the answer is no, we shouldn't even be getting into the offer process. Okay, if the answer is no, that they're not ready to sell the house yet, they're not committed yet, then moving into the offer process is only going to hurt us. We talked about that in the previous modules. But if they do say, yeah, as long as I can get the price I want, and it doesn't matter if it's a retail price, that doesn't matter. We just want a commitment that, look, if the terms were agreeable, would you actually sign a deal now? If the answer is yes, then we move into the offer process. And we want to solidify that commitment again during the offer process. Even if we have to commit them at a price that's higher than really we want to sell, doesn't mean we're agreeing to that price. It just means that they're committed. So let me give you an example. I talked to a seller, and I'm on the qualification call. I said, why are you selling? They said, well, I want to move closer to my grandkids. Is this the house you live in? Yes. Okay, where are your grandkids? Well, they're in another state. Okay, sounds good. Now I understand, when do you want to move? Well, as soon as I can get the household. Okay, great. Now I get to the end of the call. So if I can get you a price that you like so you can move and be with your grandkids, are you ready to sell your house today? Well, no, because I need to find another house first. Okay, great. Why don't you start looking, or maybe go online, figure out what it's going to take, and then would you maybe be comfortable then? Or what if I gave you 6 months that we could agree on a price, put it in escrow, and I gave you 6 months to close? That way you have all the time, and you got 6 months to go find something. And I'll also write in the contract that once you do find something, as long as you give us notice, we'll close within 2 weeks. So you have 6 months to look, but if you find something tomorrow, no problem, and you can move forward with that, okay? And if that works, and they say, yeah, that would work for me, then yes, I would sign a contract today as long as you can make that work, Josh. Now we're going to move forward to the offer process. They say, no, I don't want to do that. I really want to I'm not even sure how much prices are going for in that area, or maybe I want to rent, etc. Then I'm going to say, well, hey, why don't you get online, or why don't you go shopping this weekend, see what that looks like, and then see if based on that you would be comfortable moving forward with my offer. Then I could give you time to solidify where you're moving, etc. Right? So don't stop when they say, well, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost to move, or I'm not sure where I'm going to move. Don't stop there. Create a solution, right? That's the objection. So now you want to create a solution to them which could be, hey, I'll give you 6 months, right? And we can close earlier if you find a place, before that or whatnot. But if they're not ready, they're not committed now, don't get into the offer process. So if they are committed now, okay, and they say, okay, yeah, if you give me 6 months, and you write in there that you'll be willing to close sooner as soon as I find a place, then yes, I think that's something I could agree to. Great. Now I get into the offer process, I make the offer, and let's say that I offer them 150 and I need to be under 200 and they're saying, no, they want 220. Okay. Well, 220, I'm going, gosh, that's higher than retail, right? I've made my offer now of 150 and then they want, and I know that I can't go over 200. At 220, they might be at retail or even a little under retail. Still might be more than I can pay. Okay. So before I hammer them, I want to commit them on that. Well, look, that's something you would definitely do right now. Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Now I've got commitment, but now I know that I need to go to work on price. Okay. That's different than, let's say the seller says, oh, well, no, I won't take less than 190. And you're going, well, I'd love to be at 150, but I can wholesale this for 200. So 190, hey, it's still a deal. Okay. And they're going, I think I'd want to sell at 200. Well, you're going, well, the price sounds great, but the commitment's not there. So now you need to go to work on that commitment. Okay. So make sure that during the qualification call, they're committed to selling it now. That during the offer process, they're committed to selling it now. And now when you say, okay, fine, I'll come up to 190 or whatever the number is, and you're ready to send them the contract, you've already twice established they're ready to do this now. So it's like, well, they shouldn't, at that point, they should not be telling you now, you've qualified them, you've made the offer, you've negotiated with them, you agree to a price, let's say 190, for example, and then they say, well, I need to run this by my spouse. That should never happen to you. You should have already smoked that objection out earlier when you're talking on the objection call, or I'm sorry, on the qualification call. They should be telling you, you say, well, is this something you'd be ready to do today if we could make this, and this work? Well, yeah, I'd probably need to run it by my spouse. You'd want to know that right away. Okay. So the idea is you want to smoke out all objections so that when you get to the point where you've agreed on a price, all other objections have been handled. And if they say, well, I just want to think about it, you can say, well, what is it that you want to think about? Do you think you can get more money for this house? Do you not like me? Are you not sure if you need to move yet? Right? So in other words, when you get to the point that you agree on a price at the very end and you've got a verbal commitment with them, price should be the last thing. Okay? All those other objections should be dealt with. That's why we ask them right away, where are you moving? When are you moving? If they don't know that stuff, then getting into an offer and talking about all this stuff, there's at the end of all that, they're going to be like, well, I'm just not really sure where I'm moving yet. So that's why we ask right up front, well, where are you moving? And we want to, because look, what they need to take care of in order to sell their house, right? If they're living there, they need to find another place to live. So asking right up front, figuring out what's going on with all those things allows you to, that if you need to solve a problem for them so that they can do a deal now, it allows you to do that. If you don't know what the objection is, you can't help them, right? You can't close the objection and offer them a solution if you don't even know what the issue is. Okay. Guys, point number 5 to getting this fish in the boat, getting the contract signed, is that you need to let them get the no out. So when you're making an offer, this is why we make a super low offer, so you can go, no way. Okay. We're all human. And part of us as humans, when we're being sold on something, whether that's sold on the idea of selling you your house or whatever, is getting the no out. Okay. That's why we make a super low offer and they go, no way, I wouldn't sell it for that cheap. Okay. That's fine. Good. They got that out. Now, when you end up negotiating and they still end up selling it for less than maybe they thought they were going to, or they wanted to, they're going to feel better about it because they got that no out. Does that make sense? So guys, it's like something that's like programmed into us. When somebody's trying to sell us on something, we want to say no. So get that no out early, and now we can start solving the problems, negotiating with them, educating them, closing the gap, and end up getting the deal. Okay. Point number 6, always give them the win. So, you've qualified the seller. They've said if they can get the right price, they're ready to sell now. It doesn't matter what that price is. Now you've made an offer and they've said, no way, I don't want to do that. You should be able to come up from your offer and give them the win and still get the deal. This is why if I want to make $20,000 on a deal, I don't just offer them $20,000 less than I can wholesale it for. I offer them probably $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 less than I can wholesale it for. So when they say no way and they get the no out, and then I educate them and negotiate with them and I close that gap, I can end up hopefully being $20,000 less than I can wholesale it for. In other words, be at a price where I'm going to profit at least $20,000, right? And still, I've came up in price from my original offer, so they're feeling like they win, and I'm still making what I want to make, okay? Now, when you have somebody that's a really driver personality, that's, very, what we call a red, if you're familiar with the different colors and personality types when dealing with sales, you're dealing with that driver, that person that's real loud, hey, blah, 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 right? Very direct personality type, etc. Those people are really going to want to win. When you're dealing with somebody who's more analytical, right, you might not necessarily want to offer them 70 grand lower than you can take. Maybe you only offer them 10 grand lower than you can go. Okay, you still give them room to negotiate and give them the final win to make the deal. But when you're dealing with somebody who's super driver and they're going to hit you at, hey, I want 300,000 for my house, and you're going, well, retail's 250. Doesn't mean they won't take less, but these are the types of people you need to really make them feel good about it. So they're saying they want 300. You can't pay more than 200, right? I offer them 120, right? Really hit them low, so that at the end of the deal, when you give them that win, they're going, oh, this person only wanted to pay 120. I got them all the way up to 200. Doesn't matter that they wanted 300 to begin with. If they don't move on that 300, it's not going to be a deal. You're going to do the takeaway, let them know, hey, I can't pay that. And if they're not budging, then they must not really be serious about selling. Because if retail's, let's say, 225 or 250, and they want 300, they're not going to sell it to anybody, right? So then it becomes a different conversation. Well, what are you doing? But if they come off of all that and they're actually thinking about now 200, they wanted 300, now they're thinking about maybe 190, right? You came all the way up for 120. They're going, this is so much less than I wanted, but man, I really did good here. Because if they think that they could have got you to pay more, then they're going to deal with buyer's remorse or seller's remorse in this case, or maybe just never sign that deal in the first place. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. All right, guys, point number 7 is that you want to get a third-party agreement. This is going to help you a lot. So what I mean by this is, let's say you made your offer at 120. They said, no way, I need to be at least 190. And you're going, I think I can sell this thing for 200. So I'm now in the deal territory, right? And you negotiated with them. You said, no way, I can't get to 190. I can, I might be able to get closer to your number than my 120. There's no way I can be at 190. How close to 120 could you do? Josh, there's no way. I need to be as close to 190 as possible. And you're going, gosh, I want to make at least 20. Look, I probably need to, I might be able to stretch this, and, let me take another look at my number, do some homework, because gosh, 190, that just seems so far away. So a lot of times a good tool is to say, like, let me call you. Are you going to be there in 10 minutes? Let me take a second look at this. Let me discuss this with my partner. Okay. Now you call them back in 10 minutes, right? Don't wait a day or hours, right? Strike while the iron's hot, keep energy up, but you're going to call them back in, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Let me take a closer look at this. So you take a closer look. All right. I see what you're saying there, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Why you said 120 was way too low. Look, I can't get to that 190. I can get to 170. Will that work? Josh, you're at 170. I'm at 190. Will you split the difference with me? Okay. Now, when they ask you to split the difference with you, don't just go, yeah, I'll split the difference with you. Okay. Well, what you could say is you could go, so splitting the difference, what would that be? That's 180. I don't think I can get to 180. Asking me to come up another 10 grand. I've already came up a lot. I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. All right, Josh. Well, we tried. Well, hold on. So 180 is the number it's got to be. This is what you're saying to them. And they're saying, yeah, it's got to be at least 180. Really, I wanted, a lot more than all these numbers, Josh, but, you came up to 170. I was at 190. If we could split the difference at 180, that would make me happy. And you're going, well, I understand your thought process, Mr. Seller, that, 180 would make you feel like we're splitting the difference. But the reality of it is that's probably just paying too much. But at 180, it's got to be 180. Let me talk to my partner. Maybe we can come up to 175. No, Josh, it's got to be 180. Okay. All right. I don't know that we can make 180 work, but if we can, 100%, now we're going to solidify even more the commitment. So now I'm going to start saying, look, so if I can do this, like, put it on your partner, put it on a third party. This is so powerful. So here's the thing. I don't know that we can pay 180. I think that might be a little too high. But if we could, I would need to get my partner on board. I don't think he's going to feel comfortable paying this much. We're really paying, close to retail. But here's the thing. I'm going to be driving over to this property and doing a lot of work if we're able to do this deal. And I really like the location. So if I can pay a little bit more than I would normally like to, right? Now, time out. This is part of giving them the win. But if I could pay a little more than I would normally like to, because I do need to buy a house right now, and this isn't a great location for me, would you sign the contract right now? Yeah, Josh, I'd sign the contract right now. Okay, and you have email? I could send it to you via email and you could click to sign it. No, I don't have email. Okay, are you home right now? Yeah, I'm home right now. Okay, so I'd be able to, you're free. I could come over the next hour and have you sign this, right? You're really don't just go through all the motions and then find out, well, no, I don't have email. I'm not home today. It'll have to be tomorrow. It'll have to be in 2 days. Same thing. We want to find out right now all the stuff. Yeah, Josh, if you do 180 right now, I'll be home today. You can come over and I'll sign this contract. All right, let me talk to my partner see if he's good to come up to 180. If he is, I'll call you back. Are you going to be home in 5 minutes? You can do this again, right? Even though you just did it to come up to, they were at 190 and you're like, let me pencil this, and you were at 120 and you're like, I don't think I can get that high. And you said, so you can always use a third party, whether your offer is way low and you're going to come up a whole bunch because you left yourself enough room and that's what they need to do the deal. So you can do it during negotiations, and then also at final when you're like, yeah, I can do 180. I can wholesale this thing for 120. Of course I can do 180. I could have done the 190 if I had to, but I was trying to get to my profit that I wanted to be at, my goal profit. Now I'm there. I'm at 180. Don't just be like, all right, yeah, I'll do the 180. If you do that, they're going to think about it. They're going to think, well, would somebody else pay more? So part of giving them that win is doing it correctly. It's getting them to understand, like, they're really doing good here. They're really winning. They got you to come up more than you'd like to. Okay. They're feeling like they won. So don't just give them an easy win, because they're going to be like, they're not going to feel like they won. You got to really sell the sizzle, right? You got to put on the dog and pony show. Let me talk to my partner about this. Gosh, to come up to, I don't know, 180, that's so much more than I wanted to pay, but I really got to do something now. You've really got me my back against the wall, right? You're really making them feel like they're winning. You say, all right, so if I can get my partner on board, I can email you this contract and you'll sign it right now. Or I can come over right now and you'll sign it, right? Getting that all sealed up, okay? Using that third party to, because otherwise, if you just tell them, oh, no, you were just telling them that you can't go over 170, now you're like, yeah, I'll do 180. They're going to be like, well, would you do 185? Would you do 190? And they're going to sit there and second guess it. But if you're giving them the win properly and you're like, look, I got to get my partner on board. And another thing where this helps is if they're like, yeah, Josh, I don't know if I do 180. I mean, maybe, right? So let's say you had him committed at 190. You think you can wholesale it for 200, but you're trying to get him down to 180 or better. And you're going, I don't think I can I can't get to 190. And they're going, well, can you split the difference with me? Can you get to 180? Great tools to go, I don't think I can, but if I could, would you sign right now? Yes, I would sign right now. All right, let me talk about this over with my partner, because this is really a lot more than we wanted to pay. So let me talk this over with my partner, and if we can get to 180, you'll sign this today? Well, I mean, I think I would. Now you can say, well, hold on. I got to convince my partner this is really more than we typically want to pay. And I know my partner's not going to like this price, but I'm the one that's going to be driving to the property every day for a while now to do all the work on the house. And maybe all the work on the house, guys, is just taking pictures or whatever, right? But use this to your advantage here. So you're like, look, I'm going to be the one that's going to be driving over to the house. So I know 180 is more than we would want to pay, but if you're committed, I'll go to my partner and I'll try to get them on board. Let me help you by getting my partner to get on board with this price that's really probably more than we should be paying. But I can't do that. I can't get them on board if I can't tell them, like, look, I know 180 is more than we want to pay, but they're ready to sign right now. You can tell the seller that. Say, look, if I go to my partner and I say, hey, we got to be at 180 here, and the seller wants to think about it, my partner is going to say, no, let's just move on to the other house. So use that, guys. Use the third party is so powerful when you're negotiating and when you're netting the fish into the boat. Like, use that. Be like, look, so if I can get my partner on board, you're ready to sign right now, right? Yes. Okay. And then if they come back and say, all right, we can do it. It's a little more than we wanted to pay, but since you're ready to do this right now, so all right, I'm going to send you the contract right now, or I'm going to swing by right now. And they're not like, well, hold on, I need to talk about this with my spouse. Remember, that's what we were talking about. So you solidified all that again at the point where you're going to, hey, let me run this by my partner. Let me see if I can get them on board. part of giving them that win. You're bringing everything together, and that's getting the fish into the boat, right? You're making sure that it's the price. You're giving them the win. They're ready to sign today. All those things, so that now when you send them the contract, you're not going, why haven't they signed it yet? If you send it to them via email, I mean, they should be signing it within 15 minutes. What I like to do even is, hey, all right, I'm going to send it to you. I'll call you in 10 minutes when I send it. So then I put it all together. I email it over to them, DocuSign, and we're calling them. Hey, just sent that to you. All right. Are you at your computer right now? No, I'm not. Oh, okay. Why don't you go over and log in your email? I'll wait so we can go over this right now. Like literally, guys, grab the bull by its horns right now. This is not a time to be passive. This is not a time to be soft. This is time to be affirmative, committed, confident, and strong. Because look, guys, they're about to sell a house to you for $180,000, or maybe it's even $20,000. That's a lot of money. This is a big thing. Okay? Get this done right now. This is not something to just be kind of, oh, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, right? If they're thinking, oh, maybe, then you haven't built enough value in yourself and in your situation as to why they should sell you their house. Okay? So make sure you're doing all those things correct, eliminating all those objections, letting them say no, giving them the win before you come to a final agreement. So when you get to that final agreement, they're almost like, they should almost be thinking like, gosh, I'm a flake if I don't sign this contract now right away with the seller, because he already asked me, am I ready to do this? He wanted to make sure I was ready to do this now before he got his partner to come up in money, right? So if you get to the point and they're like, well, let me think about it, I want to run this by somebody else, blah, 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 you've done something wrong. You didn't solidify the commitment when you should have, and you went into the negotiations too early, okay? You do all that stuff properly, netting the fish becomes much, much easier because they're not like, well, I want to think about it. You're like, what do you want to think about? And an objection comes up. You're like, you should have already smoked that out earlier, okay? So third-party agreement, and doing a callback, super powerful. Now, a note I want to make on that is you should not be like, well, hey, let me talk with my partner, and I'll call you right back, and then you can't get them back on the phone. That's a problem, because if they were at 190 and you can wholesale this for 200, now they're not answering the phone. They might sell it to somebody else. They might think more about it and go, no, I don't want to do 190 anymore. So you should always, when you're getting off the phone, make sure you're going to be able to get them back on the phone. You're going to be there in 10 minutes. All right, I'm going to talk to maybe it'll only be 5 minutes. I just want to make sure we're not going to play phone tag, because, if I get my partner to do this and then I can't get a hold of you, we don't get this contract, he's probably going to change his mind, because we're really paying more than we're comfortable paying. I mean, I'm willing to do it right now because of our situation that I told you about. We just sold a house. We need to buy one. So, I might be able to pay a little more than I typically would be able to, but this is something, if I'm going to be able to do that, we got to do it now, right? Create that urgency with the seller. Okay. So again, guys, I want to reiterate, speed wins in real estate. Okay. Don't get shy. Get the signature right now. Be strong, be confident, get that deal, get the fish in the boat. Because as soon as you do, you just locked in your payday. But if you allow them to think about it, you allow time to go by, you get into a game of phone tag with them and they're not answering the phone, right? That time will kill your deal. All right, guys, be strong, be confident, always be closing. So I want to do a quick summarize and recap for Module 8 right now. How to net the fish, how to get the seller to sign the contract. Okay, you've qualified them, you've went through the offer process, you've negotiated with them, you've educated them and closed that gap down to a number that's going to work for you. How do you make sure they sign now and they don't think about it, or they don't decide to get more offers from somebody else? You make sure that point number one, make sure that you started from the very beginning telling your story, creating urgency from the very beginning based on what's going on with you right now, why you marketed to them, why you're talking to them right now. It all has to do with your story, so that you can use that story to create an urgency at the end when you've got them at a number that's going to work for you, that you don't lose it right there. But then, well, I need to think about it more, because you can lose deals that way. So if you start telling the story early, you're going to be in a really good situation when it's to the very end and they go, well, I want to think about it or whatever, and you can solidify that, okay? Point number two, always be closing, okay? Always be closing on every single thing you talk about. You're educating them, you're closing that gap. Point number three, always be one sentence away from their pain point or their pleasure point, or both. And that's part of always be closing. So point number two and point number three, always be closing and always be one sentence away from their pain or their pleasure point. Those two things go together. Point number four, don't ever try to close without a commitment. Okay. And guys, I know I talked about this in past modules, but you really shouldn't even be making an offer without a commitment. So they should be committed to selling before you move into the offer. They should be committed to selling now and signing today before you send them a contract. Point number 5, always let them get the no out during the negotiation, because it's going to be really hard to get them to sign that thing today if they never told you no. It's a human thing. They need to have already gotten the no out, okay, and now you kept going, you educated, you closed the gap. They've already gotten the no out, and now they feel like they're getting the win, and now they sign, which is bullet point number 6, right? Give them the win. So they should always get the no out and then feel like they got the win before you move into the close. Okay, now once in a blue moon, it's very rare, you're going to put a way low offer out there and they're going to say, okay, right? But 99 times out of 100, they're not just going to say, okay, I'll take your offer. They're going to say no. And then you're going to have to educate them and negotiate a little bit, and then you get the deal. This is why, guys, we don't just make our best offer. For everybody who's going to tell you, just make your best offer. But if you do that, guys, you're going to learn that you're going to lose a lot of deals. Now, remember, we talked about different seller personalities, and some sellers, we're going to go way, way, way low so we can give them a huge win. And some sellers are going to be more analytical. We're only going to go a little low so we can, but regardless, we always got to have room to come up and give them the win. And you don't want to be coming up above your goal price just to get the win. You should be able to come up and still be at your goal price, okay, of making at least $20,000. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't end up signing the deal and only making 5 or 10. Once in a while, that's going to happen, but you should have built in that they can say no, you can increase your price, and you're still at your goal price. Now, if you have to go above that to make the deal, you can make that choice at that point, but position yourself to let them say no, to come up, increase your offer, and still be making at least your goal profit, okay? So that was point number 6, always give them the win. Number 7, use third-party agreement. Use that as a tool to help you, okay? Well, this is one we wanted to pay, but let me talk to my partner. Let me see if I can get him on board. If I can, are you committed? You're 100% you'll do this right now? Can I tell? Because if I tell my partner, you're ready to sign this right now via DocuSign, or that hey, you're ready for me to jump in the car and go over right now, and we have a deal, I'm going to have a lot more leverage with my partner, getting him on board to pay more than we would typically pay. But if you're still you want to think about it, why don't we stay in touch? And then if you decide that, yes, you want to do this, then I'll talk to my partner if we didn't buy something else in the meantime. Because remember, I did tell you we're supposed to look at that other house this afternoon. We only have enough money to buy one, right? So you can go back to your story that hopefully you set up at the very beginning. Guys, if you do all these things, you talk to a seller, find out why they're selling, you make an offer, they say, no, that's too low, you educate them, and you negotiate, and you close that gap, and you get to all that, okay? And they say, well, I want to think about it. Right? You missed the boat. Okay, you missed the boat. And there was another point I wanted to make on that, and I apologize, guys. So give me just a second. What was I trying to say there? I think there was another point. I'm sure I've probably made it because I've covered a lot of ground on this video. All right, guys. So use third-party agreement, call back. Oh, I'm sorry. I know what my point was going to be. If you do all those things, you get to the very end, but you never mentioned your story. You never talked about why you're looking right now. And at the very end, they go, well, I want to think about it. And you go, well, I'm supposed to go look at this other house today. I don't have enough money to buy both of them. They're going to be like, yeah, right. But if you, at the very beginning, this is why we say tell the story way early during the lead qualification call. Now at the very end, they're like, well, I want to think about it. Now you can say, well, remember how I told you that, that we just sold the house right now, and that's why we're looking right now? Remember that I told you, what was going on with my story? Well, look, I'm supposed to go look at another house tomorrow, and I only have enough money to buy one of the houses. Now they're going to actually believe you because you'd already started to tell them about your situation. But if you wait till the very end and you're like, it's kind of like at a car dealership, right? And you go in there and you're like, oh, I'm looking at this car, and you drive it, and you're looking at numbers, and you're like, I don't know, I want to sleep on it. And they're like, well, somebody else said they wanted to buy it. You're going to be like, okay, well, you didn't say anything else about somebody else wanting to buy it before. I mean, I guess I'll take my chances, right? But if they told you from the very beginning, like, oh yeah, we can demo this car. I'm actually supposed to have somebody else coming back here later today. They've already been here. They looked at the car. They drove it. We were trying to get them approved for financing, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to. So, but these people, they've really wanted this car for the last few days. Now you're going to be like, oh man, if I like this car, I better do something today. But if they just never said anything about anybody else. And then you're like, well, let me go home and think about it tonight. And then they're like, well, I've got somebody else that might come by it tonight. You're not going to believe them. So you got to pre-frame that story earlier, right? So that when you get to the point of, hey, we need to sign this now, you're not just now telling them like, oh, well, I only have enough money to buy one deal. Because they're going to, in their mind, if they're thinking the whole time, like you'll buy their house whenever, right? Then if you try to tell them at the very end, like, well, look, there's this other house, they're going to be like, who cares, right? I mean, you buy houses. That's what you do. So that's why we tell the story. We want to separate ourselves from everybody else, not just, hey, we'll buy your house whenever, but like, no, like we just sold the house. We've got this money right now. Your house is in the neighborhood we want. If we can agree to a price now, this would be fantastic. If not, the same, when I called you the other day, I also called several other people because I need to buy a house right now. But once I find a house, I don't have enough money to buy anymore. And that's creating that urgency. Okay. Number 9, get the signature ASAP. Okay. It goes without saying, but you don't want them to be thinking about it, or, speed wins, time kills deals. So don't be shy. Get the signature now. All right, guys. So again, we're going to tell the story early, explain why we're doing this, start to pre-frame so that we're getting ready to close from the very beginning. We're always closing. We're always one sentence away from their pain point and their pleasure point. Okay, the whole time we're talking to them, during the qualification call, during the offer process, while we're educating them and negotiating, and then when we move into the close. Okay, let them get the no out with that low offer during the offer process. Give them the win. Be able to come up if you need to. They feel like they're getting the win. This is going to help you close because they're feeling like they're winning. Okay, use third-party agreement. If we can come up, is this something you'll do right now? Let me talk to my partner so I can get him on board. But before I do that, can I tell my partner that you're 100% ready to go right now if we can increase our offer? Okay, use that third party. Call them back. Remind them of their win. Look, gosh, we want to be at the 120. We're coming all the way up to 190. This is way more than we'd normally want to pay. But, I explained to you from the beginning, we have to buy a house right now. We love the location. So if you'll sign this right now, we've got a deal. Okay, well, let me think about it. Whoa. I thought we already talked about all this. Well, yeah, Josh, I got to think about it. Okay, no problem. But remember, I told you I can only buy one house. Unfortunately, I am going to need to go on this other appointment then this afternoon. Okay, et cetera, guys. So remind them of their win so that they're like, they should be feeling like, yes, I need to sign this right now because I'm winning. Okay, that's the point. And get the signature right away. Okay, so it's not time to be weak. It's not time to be shy. Be strong. Be confident. Explain to them, look, we got to do this now because you've already found out why they're selling, when they're selling. You've smoked out all those objections. So if you've solved all their problems, okay, you've educated them why this is a good offer, you've gotten them to agree, there should be nothing left for them to think about. If there's something they still want to think about, that means there's something they didn't tell you. There's something you didn't get out of them as to what they need accomplished in order to sell your house. Because if you've taken all other options off the table, okay, then the only option left is to sell you their house.